Good morning, everybody. It is Friday morning, cliffcentral.com. We are here, we are live, and we're ready for the weekend. I hope you are. Sure. Yes. All right, we got a busy show lined up for you today. We got lots of cool things happening. Let me give you a little menu of what's coming up. It's going to be fun. We've got a couple of cool guests joining us. Ben will be on with me in the next little while. We've got some headlines, obviously, for you. We talked to Stevel Marc, who I think you might remember from a long while ago on the show. Stevel is an international model. He's an actor. He's an author. He's a photographer. And I actually want to talk to him because it's been 21 years ago that as a teenager with one measly bag, this guy came to South Africa and started a life, essentially. He had $50 in his pocket, and he told the story on a social media post that he put up. He put up a video on YouTube. And I just thought, this guy is actually quite inspiring. And even though I've met him before and we've spoken to him before on the show, I thought it might be cool to have Stevel on because he's a really, really cool dude. He's got such a cool take on life. He's a very optimistic, fun guy, believes in his dreams. He lives his dreams. And I think people like that deserve a whole lot of attention from us because they're the ones who turn ideas and dreams into reality. And there are a few of them. There are only a few in the world. Unfortunately, and I include myself in this sometimes, lots of us have lots of ideas, right? We have great ideas about businesses, great ideas about what we're going to do with our lives, where we're going to go, what we'll build, who we'll meet, the kinds of things we'll end up achieving. I remember when I was, 22, 23, I thought, I better hurry up because by 28, I'm going to be married with 3 kids. That was I thought that was going to be the plan. And 28 rolled by and I wasn't. So I don't know what that means in terms of achievement, but I certainly didn't feel like I'd achieved enough by the age of 28. And I felt, I always compare myself in that case to like the great people of history, like Alexander the Great, who by 33 had conquered the known world. You suddenly think, well, by comparison, I'm a bit of a loser. Anyway, we'll speak to Stevel Marc a little bit later on. I had a very busy day yesterday, which I'll tell you about in a second, but I want to go to the comments. Tatleho says, struggling to defrost this morning. I couldn't die peacefully in my sleep. I want to scream, good morning. Yeah, dude, listen, I feel your pain. Waking up in winter is not fun. And we don't have to talk about this all day, I promise you, but it is something to think about. Salut Sama from Michael Pfister, who's getting hold of us from Switzerland this morning. Ruth says, busy weekend of birthday parties happening. Hopefully warmer weather, and next week is a short week. Woo! Oh, yes, of course. We've got the 16th of June, Youth Day, which is Thursday next week. We've got off. So there won't be a burning platform, and Pumi won't be on the show next week then. But otherwise, things will be as usual. Yonder says, good morning, Cliff Centralians, and those who are not tuned. I don't know. It's Friday. Let's make this one better than the last. Cool. Gary says, are you getting sick again? No. Why? Do I look like I'm sick? That worries me. Thanks, Gary. Now I started the morning badly. All right. We want to hear from you. Doing my first international travel this coming week since COVID, says Venetia. Traveling to India. Nice. Yeah, I did mine in March, and I have to tell you, I don't think the world is ready yet for travel. There's still too much bullshit. I think it's definitely eased up since March, even more. But March was there was still too much nonsense, especially in the airports, especially in America's airports. I'll tell you, that's nothing you want to find yourself in yet. Until they've stopped all their nonsense, I'm just not traveling for a little while. Anyway, yesterday, speaking of international travel, I did a bit of a whirlwind diplomatic tour yesterday. I've got a few friends who I've maintained friendships with for a very long time in, various parts of Pretoria and the diplomatic corps and all the rest of it. So I stay in league with them. They're really interesting people. I get to speak to ambassadors, and I get to hear what they think of South Africa, and I get to hear what they think of their own countries. And it's interesting to me. I keep in touch with these people because their whole job is to maintain trade relations, maintain good diplomatic relations, try to understand what's going on in South Africa, try to understand what's going on in their own country, and communicate between the two. So I found it interesting that yesterday I was invited to the 74th, I said 75th, but it was the 74th birthday of Israel, Israeli Independence Day, which is a really, really interesting thing. I mean, and there are lots of people in South Africa who are not big fans of Israel. So I understand that, there are differing opinions on this, and people tend to be very polarized about the issue of Israel, just like they're very polarized about, North Korea or America or Britain, for that matter. Everybody tends to think that the countries that they like, for whatever reasons, political, economic, social, maybe you like their prime minister or their president. That's enough for you. But I went along to Israel's independence celebrations at the Pretoria Israeli embassy, and it was really cool. I saw lots of people there that I knew. They sang the anthems, which is always always cool because everybody stands to attention. And the Israeli ambassador said some very cool things. He said, for example, I thought this was an interesting thing that he said. He said, you don't have to be, pro-Israel or pro-Palestine. You can be both. Like, you can want both to be happy and successful. I thought that was such a good point. I wonder, of course, whether the Palestinian representatives of South Africa would say the same thing. But it's interesting how much progress is actually being made in that part of the world, because Israel has opened up diplomatic relations with the UAE, with Bahrain. They're starting to talk to Sudan. They've already got an improvement in relations when it comes to Jordan and Egypt. So there are lots of things happening that are actually extremely positive in that part of the world, I think. And I mean, I certainly hope you would think so too. I had to do a little mid-morning, you know how the nose. I've worked this out, by the way. Unless I wake up at 4:30, this is what happens. It takes my head, my nose, my sinuses, like a fucking hour to sort themselves out in the morning when I've woken up. So sorry about that, but that's the way it goes for winter. Anyway, so the Israeli embassy and Israel celebrating 74 years, very, very special. And I wholeheartedly send my congratulations and my support to the people of Israel and to the South African Jewish community who support Israel so strongly. We've got a very good, strong, dedicated, devoted lobby of people who keep Israel front and center in the news. And I think that deserves enormous congratulations, because it flies in the face of enormous government hostility to Israel, which is just so bizarre to me. So good luck, Israel, and keep on working on the relations with those neighbors of yours who, up to just a few years ago, they hated Israel so much that the only solution in their minds was, Israel must be wiped out. Now you have open diplomatic relations with the UAE, with Bahrain, and with many other countries. It's starting to happen with Morocco. So this is good news. We should all be very, very pleased with that. I'd also say that there's such a welcoming atmosphere. By the way, I saw Herman Mashaba there, which was cool. I had a long chat to him. Now, I'm going to get him on the Burning Platform sometime soon, but I also want to get Herman's candidate for Gauteng Premier, because, of course, they're contesting the upcoming provincial and local elections too. And Herman is going to put forward a very, very cool guy, Baloy, who's Baloy Modise, I think his name is. He, a very interesting dude. He actually was the DA guy for Midvaal, and he switched over to Herman, which is another interesting thing. I wonder if the DA knows about that, or whether they saw that coming. Certainly they know about it now, but whether they saw that coming, because Herman is slowly operating in the background and making things happen. And I feel like even people who don't like Herman have to give him a bit of a begrudging respect. Anyway, the other thing is that I went straight from that to the British High Commission, the High Commissioner's residence, where they had a birthday party or a Platinum Jubilee celebration for the Queen, which was quite cool. I mean, that all happened obviously in England over the weekend in London, but, well, all over the UK actually. But they had a little party for a whole lot of sort of friends of the British High Commission there as well. So that was quite cool. They had to change the tie, but otherwise kept everything the same. And went and joined a whole bunch of people there. It was very cool. There's a group of singers who are actually but an offshoot of the Soweto Gospel Choir called Africa's Soul, and they are superb. Really, really talented singers. They did both versions of they did the British anthem and then they did the South African one, both beautifully sung. And then they did some music afterwards too, which was really, really good. So some terrific people wandering around there, some great entertainment, some excellent gin and tonic, it has to be said. I think one of the sponsors there was Diageo, so they brought along Tanqueray and a whole lot of other great gins. So some very cool stuff happening there. And just a nice day. It's good to see people doing normal things. No one wore masks. They're walking around. It's middle of winter and the weather was beautiful. Yesterday afternoon, I looked at Pretoria because certainly the British High Commissioner's residence is perched on the hill in Waterkloof, and you just get to look right over the city of Pretoria, which just looks fantastic. I know I'm biased. I was born here, I grew up here, but I just love it. I really do. Christine says, great news. No signs of protests in or near Belito in KZN this morning. Everyone has been holding their breath waiting for today, even though none of the threats were confirmed. Well, there is a bit of a shutdown in Gauteng today. There's a combination of EFF and who is it again? Santaco, I think. Yeah, Santaco, the EFF, the National Taxi Association, that are actually going to be protesting in Gauteng. The purpose of the shutdown apparently is a protest against high fuel and food prices. So I don't know if, this. Listen, I understand how people are frustrated about this because none of us want to pay more for food or for fuel. But the reality is this is what happens when the economy is mismanaged, as it has been in South Africa, and when the rest of the world mismanages it, and when Russia invades Ukraine. So who are you protesting against? Vladimir Putin? Joe Biden? Cyril Ramaphosa? Why shut down the country for everyone else on a Friday morning when we all have things to do? Because you are angry with the president of the United States of America or of Russia. It's just, it beggars belief because it shows you just how disconnected Santaco, the EFF, and the National Taxi Association are from how money works in the world. And that it's not a bunch of politicians, although all of those three groups think that if they were in charge, they would be able to control this. They just don't seem to have any grip on the economy at all. I also had something boring to do yesterday. I went to a homeowner's AGM, which is something, I try to avoid this stuff like the plague, but they strong-armed me into it the other day. I've got a neighbor who I really like, and he said to me, you have to come. So I went straight from all of this, embassy stuff to this boring fucking meeting where I had to sit and listen. Again, usually the people who run these things, the directors on these boards, God bless them, because they're volunteers. They don't get paid to do it. And they get voted in. They have to run things for a year. It's a horrible job. It's thankless. Everybody else in the neighborhood blames them for everything that they don't like. They give them no credit for the things that they do like. It's a thankless, horrible job. Do not ever stand as a director of your board or your, what do they call them? It's either a body corporate or a homeowners association, but we need more Karens. I need 10 Karens in my neighborhood because obviously we don't have enough. There are none of them standing for election. And I always say, and Pumi also said this the other day, we need these busybodies in amongst us to do these things. No one wants to do it, right? No one feels like this, but it has to be done. So Ruth's saying that relations have never been better between Israel and other countries. If anyone says Israel's an apartheid state, I say you have never been to Israel, because the truth is you have to go and see for yourself. Absolutely. Parallel Parking says, eat a hot chili first thing in the morning and you will clear that nose immediately. Plus you wake up damn fast. No, I'm not going to be doing that. It is so hot in Cape Town, it's hard to cover up with a blanket while sleeping. Sure, Sanele. You got problems, hey? Wow. Thanks for rubbing our noses in it when the rest of the country is so freezing cold. Imagine the Free State right now. By the way, Michael says, Gareth, you should touch on the war that was between Israel and Egypt and how they won. It's such a cool story. Well, I mean, but what I think we should do one morning is get a historian on to tell the story of Israel, because I know I'm often attacked. Sometimes I have received some very bizarre threats from people in the past for being a supporter of Israel. But I'll tell you something, that the history of that country is fascinating, and you're quite right, Michael. Especially the foundation of the country, how it all started, and how Israel pretty much had to, as soon as people had started to arrive there, those people were put immediately into uniform, given guns, and told we could be attacked at any time. There was an existential crisis from day one, and pretty much all their neighbors ganged up on them. And they did that on the most holy day of the Jewish calendar, and they survived. Not only did they survive, they beat back their enemies to way beyond their borders, meaning that technically they conquered more country, more territory than they originally had demarcated for them. And there's a whole lot of contention about some of those areas to this very day, but it's very interesting. So here's something bizarre. I don't know what this means. EP says, Gareth, if you start applying MFR to your glutes and your lower back, all the gunk will come out. What? The MFR? The fuck is that? EP47. Sounds terrible. Herman Mashaba is an out-and-out capitalist, says Carl. It would be nice if he had more sway and knocked those socialist bastards out of power. I agree. I like Herman Mashaba very much. That's why I've had him on the show as many times as I have. On News 24, it says that Santaco have distanced themselves from the protests, says Carl also. Okay, well, great, because I don't see how they're going to help. Okay, Corona's boring and EP47 and do the alien thing. Have you heard Joe Rogan's conversation with Michio Kaku recently? I saw someone on my social media who was raving about that. Michio Kaku is fascinating because he is a physicist, and he talks in very simple terms about very complex scientific things. For example, the one that everybody seems to cite as their kind of extreme version of knowledge, even though very few people can actually explain to you what the whole thing is they start talking about string theory. And the best explanation I've ever heard for string theory is from Michio Kaku. So I'll be listening to that one. EP47 also says, I want to go to Jerusalem. Me too. I've never been to Israel. I'm desperate to go. Venetia says, Jeffrau Rottenmeier in our complex is amazing. She will do everything with a smile while being a super Karen. We need those people. Tracy says, estate politics and AGMs are the one thing I don't miss about living in an estate. It was lovely at the time, but yes, this pettiness and bickering does get tired after a while. I just think, Tracy, believe me, I wouldn't want to live in an estate in an ideal world. I just think that if you live in a body corporate, or you live in a complex, or you live in an estate, it's a security thing. That's really all it is. I mean, I don't want to think about that stuff every day. I don't want to be on high alert morning, noon, and night, thinking about whether or not someone's going to burst in through the door or steal something or whatever else. That's the only reason. It's that simple. I have no emotional connection to the idea at all. And I don't care about belonging to something or going through a boom gate or any of that shit. If it's safe, I'm in. That's all. And other than that, I don't think about it at all every single day. I mean, I just get on with my life. And luckily for me, I've got one set of neighbors on the one side who are really cool, who I get along with quite well. On the other side, they kind of keep to themselves and I keep to myself. But we get on fine too. And as for the rest, they seem cool. It's not really, I don't think about it every day, There are people in the world who connect and make sure that they know who their neighbors are. I'm just not, I don't think I'm one of those people. Myofascial release. The fuck is that, EP47? Is it like a massage? I imagine that's a massage. And if you're talking about the glutes, you're talking about ass massage. So, okay. All right. Very good. Congo Chris says, Gareth, be the change you want to see in the world. Become the Karen that you need. You already have the haircut. You reckon this is a Karen haircut? Thanks. Thanks very much. Nico says, why is everyone going on about the cold? Like Nina said on Instagram, it's cold from May till October and always has been. Get used to it. Yeah, I mean, we do this. It's what you do. You say, "Ooh, it's cold," or you say, "Oh, it was hot." People just do it. It's what they talk about. It's also how you break the ice with people. Literally, in this case, break the ice. Weren't we in Jerusalem during COVID lockdown, doing the song and dance? You guys want to go there again? Damn. Yeah, that Jerusalem. I actually saw. I think her name is Nomtrebo. I saw her singing it live in Cape Town about 2 months ago, and she is fantastic. She's got this group of dancers, 3 or 4 dancers who dance with her. They come out and they move, man. I just wish, if I have any regrets, I wish I could dance like that. That would be quite cool to do. Lots of other comments coming in. I've got a few other things that I want to put on the agenda for this morning, but we've got headlines coming up. Let's take a look at some of those quickly, just so we can be informed. First things first. Oh, where do we begin? Hang on. I've got the wrong headlines here. I've got like 2 days ago's headlines. That's not going to help anybody. All right. So first thing, Prince William was spotted selling the Big Issue in central London. This is weird. What a weird story. The Duke of Cambridge has been spotted in central London, quietly helping sell Big Issue magazines. A retired Met Police chairperson, Superintendent Matthew Gardner, shared photos of Prince William in Rochester Row in Westminster on his social media account. He said his brother-in-law had seen what he thought was a celebrity and took a distanced photo. Prince William then crossed the road and spoke to Mr. Hannant while wearing the iconic Blue Issue uniform. The Big Issue, sorry, not Blue Issue. Big Issue is sold by homeless people, long-term unemployed people, and those who need to avoid getting into debt. Vendors are given free magazines, which are then sold to the public for £3, with additional copies bought for £1.50. So I don't know why he was doing this, but maybe he's run out of money. Maybe that's what he's done. He's just run out of cash. Whoa, my God, I'm sick of this. I hate winter so fucking much. So apparently the 47-year-old, not Prince William, he's a little bit younger than that, but this Mr. Hannant, who's a property manager, said he was on his way back to the office when he spotted Prince William among a small group of people in the street. He said he was so friendly. It was amazing. It struck me that we've just got through a massive Jubilee, and days later, he's out there supporting a charity like Big Issue. So well done to Prince William. If he's just doing this to kind of understand what people go through when they're trying to sell magazines, great. Helping the homeless, connecting to the people, that's all very good. And I don't see anything wrong with it. You can criticize him. You can say, oh, well, it's just a stunt. But then don't politicians do that all the time? And Prince William isn't looking for your vote. He may look for PR opportunities from time to time, but I don't see a problem with that. Also, are you going to put on the stupid red uniform that they have to wear when they sell that magazine and go and sell this among homeless people in Westminster? I'm not going to. So good for Prince William. In other news, Lil Nas X has been ranting and raving about not getting a nod for the BET Awards. Last week, they announced the nominations for the year's award ceremony, and Lil Nas X didn't receive a single nomination. Ooh, the Montero hitmaker was not impressed with the network BET, which is supposed to celebrate Black excellence, and they've snubbed him for 2 years in a row. Last year, he was invited to perform at the awards without a nomination. Taking to Twitter, he expressed his frustration and accused the channel of not supporting Black gay people. I suppose if your whole world is wrapped up in your identity of being Black and gay, then you always see things where you don't win as being anti-Black and anti-gay, but maybe they just don't like you, Lil Nas X. You ever thought about that? I always wonder about people. Like if you don't like me, my first thought is, well, maybe I'm a I've been a shit to you. Maybe I've done something horrible. Maybe I was rude to you once. Maybe I ignored you when you were talking to me. Maybe I said something once on the show that pissed you off. I don't immediately go, oh, it must be because you hate straight white people. Imagine if I went through life like that. I mean, Lil Nas X is in for a world of pain if that's how he thinks about things. And sure, there are people who do probably hate Lil Nas X because he's black and gay. I'm sure there are. But if that's your default position, if it isn't first personal accountability, like maybe I'm a shit, you're missing the point, I think. Anyway, a lot of other people here in the comments. Come on, Gareth, get with your rhythm-filled team and dance the Jerusalem. It's a line dance. Even you can learn it. Forget it, Wendy. I can't do that. It's not something I could do. Forget it. Congo Chris says, maybe if Little Nas X spent less time moaning, he could have written some better songs. That's a good point. And maybe he should realize, says Carl, he was a one-hit wonder. Didn't Little Nas X win a Grammy 3 months ago? Isn't that the holy grail in music? What's he bitching about? He did. He won a Grammy. But, this is all you live for. Once you are addicted to the fame and the attention that you get from an award like this, that's all you can do, is you keep looking for more. So this is typical, and I don't actually feel sorry for him at all. Where, as I usually say on the show when people start moaning like this, where? So Comair are going to be liquidated. Oh, boy. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this. I haven't really, but struggling aviation company Comair will be liquidated. The company that operates Kalula and British Airways in South Africa failed to secure funding to continue operating. Comair's business rescue practitioners say there is no reasonable prospect that the company can be rescued. Before we climb into Comair and their behavior over the last week, where they really dropped people in the shit and people couldn't, the last couple of weeks, people couldn't catch flights that they'd booked. They owe a whole lot of people money. Can we just, for a moment, consider how difficult it must be to run an airline? I mean, I'm not going to feel sorry for them, but if you're going to get into that business, your margins are so tight. You have to operate knowing what the international oil price is and how that can fluctuate up and down. You have to rely on filling planes up. There's all the complex stuff around marketing, around airports themselves, how you manage your routes, what it costs you to fly from A to B. You do not want to get into airlines unless you really know your business. That is a tough operation to run. So whether or not you're a fan of Comair, they're out of business. They're going to be liquidated. And that is the latest on them. Hey, Ben, good morning.
Hey, Gareth. How's it going?
Good. What's happening? Nice to see you.
Well, yeah, you too. So what's happened to Comair? Sorry, I'm catching the back end of the story here, but this is what should have happened to SAA. The shit hit the fan, and then you covered an excrement. SAA went through this so many different times where they just kept getting our money to. So I mean, obviously it's terrible how they've dropped people, but this is actually what was meant to happen to businesses when they go bad. And it's very sad, but it's also sad that it happens to them, whereas there's SAA just went through years and years and years of not happening to them.
Well, this is we gave special protections to SAA, and really, the airline business is tough. Not everyone's going to win, and as Doug Stanhope, your favorite and my favorite comedian, often says, it's like going into battle. Not all of us will be here at the end.
Sure. If you want to get an insight into how tough airlines really are, Richard Branson's, I think, first autobiography talks a lot about that. For him, it was part of his marketing machine to have Virgin. It was sexy to have an airline. But every single week, you are literally flying by the seat of your pants. Every single thing is conspiring against you. Every single thing is stressful. And, we often take it for granted. We get into this little can. We fly a couple of hours. We get out the other side. It's hard as hell.
Couldn't agree more. I wouldn't want to run an airline. I think that's probably one of the toughest jobs. Look, anything in the air is a tough job. I've always thought air traffic control is going to be the most stressful job in the world. But my erstwhile brother-in-law is a pilot for the airlines, and he works fucking hard. I mean, he wakes up at 3 a.m, and then he gets given 3 routes for the day. And I think I would be exhausted to get home at 8 o'clock at night after being up at 3 a.m. It's tough work. I don't know if I could do that.
It is, because you also got to be so diligent. It's not like an Uber driver. Like, no disrespect to them, but they get into their car, they turn the car on. Your brother-in-law has to do a myriad of safety checks. He has the responsibilities that are so much higher, and you can't have bad days, huh? You should be like,
no, you can't.
like we've all had bad days, but our bad days are involved.
You also can't sleep in your car like an Uber driver, you know. And then the whole car smells it. Imagine if pilots slept in the plane, and the whole plane smelt like they'd slept in it, which is how Ubers smell.
Yeah, and then you get into the plane, and the guy's literally taking like Steers packages out of the footwell. It's like, sorry, just give me a second.
You find that Steers seasoning salt on the floor in the footwell.
Yeah, but you can't get that out of a car here. You've got to be so selective what you put into a car, and unfortunately, fast food fumes, together with 4 to 6 hours of heavy breathing.
Yeah,
with closed windows. Yeah, let's stop her out there.
Yeah, winter Ubers and summer Ubers have very different experiences, but winter Ubers tend to be a little more smelly.
It's a different atmosphere, literally.
Yeah, it's heady. Let's just put it that way. All right, so a couple of things that we've got to talk to Ben about this morning. What is going on in golf? Because I see the Saudis have launched their own kind of tournament stroke PGA stroke whatever it might be, and a whole lot of people have joined the Saudis, and they're all taking part in this because obviously the Saudis have just got tons of money, so they're throwing money at this. And is this good for golf, Ben, or should we be upset, or should we be purists and say, oh, well, they're ruining this gentleman's game by throwing money at things? What is going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of talking points here, obviously, and then there's the moral high grounds, which we'll get into in a second. It's absolutely great for golf because it's something new, it's something different, and even if it is crap, that new and something different allows the traditional to become better, and it allows sort of latitude to happen within the sport that might not have happened already. So there's the DP World Tour, which is obviously the ex-European tour, which is amazing because they literally go around the world. There's the PGA Tour, which is the best because it's got the most money and it's got the best players, and it's America-based. So people always aspire to be there because if you are a golfer and you're based in America, life becomes a lot better. You know, you get to obviously marry much hotter women. You get to be in the same country as with them.
That's written into the terms and conditions of the PGA, right?
Well, as a golfer, ultimately, you're looking to win trophies and get a trophy wife. So, I mean, America brings all of that together so much better. And then you're in the country where majors are played. So preparation time, acclimatization to courses is so much better.
Right.
I mean, Gary Player, who, as you know, grew up very poor, he had to catch 17 planes with 14 children to go to a major. So by the time he got there, he was knackered. And he still ended up winning 9 majors and 9 senior majors. So he would have won 43 if he was based in America, as we know. I mean, look, I'm not saying anything new here. So
Gary said this himself a million times.
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, because he would have been the absolute greatest. So that is where golf is right now. When you're the best, those are your 2 options. Well, I say your 2 options. Basically, you're on the European Tour until you can make it on the PGA Tour, DP World Tour. So what the Saudis are doing is like, well, we like golf. We've built a couple of golf courses. Golf is rich. We're rich. Let's give it a crack. Who wants what, basically? So they literally, I think, hired a company where creative designers are about 11 or 12 years old. They probably just left the mother's care for a day-to-day basis. Everything looks very cheap. It looks very shit and very put together at the last moment, and they've just learned Photoshop. The courses they're playing at are absolutely amazing. The money that they're offering players is sensational. Before we get into that, we'll talk about the format. What they want to do is they want to have 8 tournaments. That's all they want, just 8 tournaments. And then, because golfers essentially are free agents, they play on these tours, but they don't get like salaries, whatever. Even the best can make 0 on a weekly basis or a string of zeros. So they were like, well, sorry.
Don't worry, I had a sneeze just now. So it's all great.
They were looking to basically not contract, but get together like 40, 50, 60 kind of golfers and say, look, guys, there is guaranteed money on every single event. So instead of going to a golf tournament, you play 2 rounds, you play like shit, you go home with no money. You will play 3 rounds. There is no cut. You will make money. So one of the greatest things about being a Sunshine Tour professional is you can win the Sunshine Tour Order of Merit, which then allows you into a WGC event. Now, that is a World Golf Championship. And if you finish last there, you get $100,000. Hooray, which is great.
Wow. Okay.
If you finish last at one of these Saudi events, you get $125,000. So work that out on exchange rate. There's no surprise why a lot of South African golfers, the ones that were offered, have actually gone to this thing. So that's really cool.
So which of our players, what Charles Schwartzel, who else?
Basically, sorry.
Don't worry. I was. You should have heard me like 15 minutes ago. Don't worry.
I haven't had a good week.
We're all deteriorating.
So basically, all the best South African golfers except for Christian Bezuidenhout have gone. So Schwartzel, Louis Oosthuizen, Brandon Grace, Justin Harding, Chris Norris, Henny Duplessis. There's quite a few in there. And they're getting guaranteed cash, which is great. And they want to have a team format. So they want to have a team format. So every single tournament, the players get put into the strange IPL sort of auction thing. And then you're playing individually, but you also play as part of a team. And these teams have been given predictably shitty names.
All right. So all of this is good. I mean, I don't care enough about golf. The reason I brought this up is because the media, the stupid media, have got.
Yeah, I was just giving the background there. I'm done. I'm totally done with background.
I know, but this is the part that I'm really interested in, is the media have decided that Saudi equals bad, but anyone else equals good. And, if the media decides, like, for example, they've decided Ukraine equals good, Russia equals bad. So everything's very binary for them. And a lot of journalists are really, really stupid. So I heard there was a press conference this week. This is where it gets interesting. And they were trying to trap these golfers into saying things that would get them into trouble with the Saudis whose money they're now playing for.
Yeah, there is no easier target as a media person than a middle-aged white man sitting in golf clothes with cameras on him. So
everyone hates them, right? Everyone hates them.
How dare you? And the thing about that journalists, and people won't point this out, but journalists are poor, right? Fundamentally, they do not know what money is. They do not know what the smell of a Ferrari interior is. They do not know what the soft touch of the backseat of a Rolls Royce is. They'll never know these kind of things. They'll never understand
which is why journalists are always more interested in reporting on rich people than they are on poor people. And it's why they always seem confounded and confused. Totally. The moment anyone speaks about anything to do with like profit and loss, a balance sheet, debit, credit, the minute you talk about anything to do with money, economics, for example, unless you're an economics reporter, with a different breed of person, they don't understand a goddamn thing about this, because journalists earn somewhere between, if they're lucky, 4 and 10 grand a month. Even the best ones, just a little bit more than that. So they don't understand money. So when they're talking to people who are clearly earning more than them, they're first of all filled with resentment and bitterness. Hugely. And you can hear that in the questions that they ask straight away. Second of all, they're obsessed with money because they don't have any. Obsessed with it. And third of all, they just don't understand the dynamics of this. So that someone's talking about, millions of money, and millions of rands or dollars or dirhams or whatever in prize money, and it blows their heads up. That you can hear them short circuiting in the seats.
Well, okay, so yes, all of that I agree, and no one's talking about that. So I think we should really start with that. Journalists they all have these romantic ideals, and they're all so principled. But it's easy to be principled when no one's offering you anything. These golfers get offered all kinds of cash, women at their door, fast cars, all these kind of things. But yet, and then they're seen as the bad guys. Well, hang on a second. Try live a day in their shoes. And this is what I also hate about these people with their stupid fucking problems, is that they never understand that life doesn't get easier when you get rich. It's just different, and it's also pretty hard. So yes, these guys have made huge amounts of money. Why are they going to a tour where they make even more money? Well, because that's just their life, right? They're dealing with these kind of things. It's business. Now, I know it's extreme. So everyone was like, well, they were already set for life. And you would be right. So Dustin Johnson, he is the biggest name in this thing. He's already made, I think, like 80 million on the PGA Tour. Good. 80 million, okay? So, amazing. Good for him. You can't spend it. You can't do anything with it. He then has gone to this thing. This is the weirdest stat. Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer ever, okay? And he was a great golfer when there was money in the sport, unlike Gary. The Saudi people have offered Dustin Johnson just to go and play in this tournament, right? Separate to what he's going to win. Just to go and play, they've offered him the same amount of money that Tiger Woods made by being the best golfer in his entire career in prize money. Jeez. They said, here's 215 million just to be here and just to be associated with this and resign from the PGA Tour.
Phenomenal.
So he's gone, cool, I'm in. And then he said, and this is what gets all the people really upset. He said, I'm doing this because I want this for my future, and this is the best decision for my family. So everyone's going, bullshit. It's just the money. It's like, obviously it's just the money. And then these journalists, they go further to say, where wouldn't you play? Would you have played in apartheid South Africa? Would you play Vladimir Putin's tournament right now?
No.
And all of it is like, well, dude, obviously they're there for the money. So, and these golfers are trying to be very diplomatic. They're trying to say, well,
someone's coached them. Some shitty media.
Badly.
Some media presentation coach has got hold of them, and they've said, well, if this question comes up, just say, I don't want to deal with a hypothetical.
Yes, completely. So they're basically looking like naughty schoolboys trying to evade questions rather badly. And I just wish that they would turn it around, because these journalists, and they're having a massive go about the fact that, Saudis killed journalists, which was quite funny because they.
Well, there was that one Khashoggi thing where they cut him up, put him in a suitcase. I mean, what are you going to get all sensitive about the one? I mean, really?
Well, these guys are pretty brazen on the back of that, though. So they're bringing up all these things, which is very obvious. It's like, how dare you take this money? And then again, you just want to break it down. Okay, cool, guys. Let's just say you're right. So after this, are you going to go to the Saudi Grand Prix, and are you going to basically pour paint all over the press conference? Are you going to go try to find Hillary Clinton and ask her where all her money came from for her stupid campaigns? I know there's the whole what ism, what ifism,
what aboutism?
What aboutism? Sorry, it's an actual thing. But it just stinks of theatrical nonsense that you're taking on these golfers for wanting to make more money. And yes, they were already rich, and now they are stupidly rich. It's also their deal. That's their thing. Who decides who has the dirtiest money? Because it's funny how people don't say this about China. It's funny how certain parts of America are pretty dodgy. There's some companies there that sponsor events. No one's saying no to their money. So it's this moral high horse, which is absolute bullshit. But I also just,
but
I would love for the Saudis.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Gareth.
No, you'd love the Saudis.
I would love for the Saudis just to basically go to these journalists and say, "Look here, you dipshits. Here's $5 million." And then I want to see how loud they are. And I know that what I'm saying here is wrong, because basically I'm talking about corruption and I'm endorsing it. But they are having a field day on these golfers, and they know the answer, and they've never known what real money is. So how can they ever, I just believe that in life, you always got to be compassionate to some sort of cause. You can't just be like this wrecking ball of nonsense. And that's what these guys are, and they're coming across like that.
But this is also the problem with the world, right? Is that people decide that their moral line is here. Let's say, for example, that you've decided that Vladimir Putin invading the Ukraine is where you draw the line. Then everybody up to that line is acceptable. Everybody on the other side of it is no longer acceptable. For some people, it has to do with money. So if someone is rich, they must have stolen that from someone else. They must have made that off someone else's labor. It's very unfair. So rich people be damned. Some people say racism is their thing. So if you can detect even the tiniest amount of racism in somebody, then you can say you're better than them, and you can dismiss them completely. And whatever your line is, that's where people start to feel morally superior. And it's just nonsense. All of it is totally subjective. All of it it has nothing to do with your morality. There are very, very good people who are not perfect. And there are very, very bad people who are close to being more moral than anyone else among us. But they're still bad in some way because maybe, I don't know, they lie to their spouse, or, they mismatch their socks when they get dressed in the morning. Who knows what people's moral inclination might be? But it is ridiculous to say that if you wave $200 million in front of somebody, that they're not going to take it. And if they do take it, they must be a bad person. It's outrageous.
It is outrageous. Look, there's a couple of other things that are post-golf with me on this, is that everyone's got a number, everyone's got a price. And
Sure.
And as much as you look at this country and how corruption is basically a cancer which is ruining South Africa, and it's ruining Africa in many ways, but corruption is also human nature. So we can't think it's not going to happen, and we can't think that we aren't inclined to become part of it. But it's again, it's just, as you say, people decide this, and they have this virtuous high ground that they think that they're claiming. I would just love for entertainment purposes for these golfers just to say, well, yeah, I've got 4 Ferraris, but this other guy that I really hate's got 8. So would I get that 9th Ferrari? Fuck him. And I want to hear that from the golfers. I don't want to hear this crap about, well, the Saudis have made some mistakes, and I think that we have an opportunity to try to help them usher in a new dawn, an era. It's like, fuck off, man.
But it's like, for example, when someone attacks you on social media, that most of us, because we have good manners and we were raised properly, our inclination is to apologize, to say, hey, listen, let's sit down and talk about this. Whether whether it's just something silly someone's saying, or whether it's something that's genuinely offensive, or if you just don't like somebody, which is the case for most people who say things on social media. They don't really care. It's just they're lashing out because they've got a miserable home life themselves. Anyway, the inclination is, and you were raised like this, Ben. I know I certainly was. I think most of the people who listen to our show were, that when you are in a conflict situation with someone, you try to find a way out of it, and you apologize, and you reconcile, you find common ground, you negotiate a peace between you and the other person, and you try to be as friendly as possible, because you look at that person, you say, well, you're a person just like me. Let's treat each other properly, right? That's respectable, and that shows a level of decency.
It's gentleman-like.
Yeah, the problem is that's not how these people who lash out like this, how they should be treated, whether they're journalists or whether they're ordinary members of the public, or whether they're rich celebrities or assholes. They're people at all levels of society that don't know how to behave. I say the way to deal with those people is to attack them back, because some people just do not accept and understand a compliment or an apology. So there's no point in trying to be nice to them. What you have to do with those people is say, actually, fuck you. I mean, like, wouldn't it be great if a golfer said at one of these conferences, and they never will, because again, they've been trained and coached into saying the same boring thing all the time, which is why you're the only person who picked up anything controversial in that press conference. The rest would have gone, because they would have taken attention. The way to do this is for that golfer, ideally, in a world where they're like Elon Musk and they don't care. And maybe this is what really being rich gives you. And maybe one day these golfers will be able to talk like this. You say, what kind of question is that? You're just unhappy, resentful, and bitter about the fact that I'm about to be paid $200 million to hit a ball around, and you have to get into your many-pocketed journalist jacket and go out into war zones to try and get a 2/millionth of the money that I'm going to get for playing on beautiful green grass and being fated for being a great golfer my whole life. You're going to put yourself in the way of bullets, and you won't ever make as much money or be as famous as I am. And that's why you're asking me the question. Shut your pie hole. Here's $5,000. Fuck off.
I still believe there's a great role for journalism and journalists, because they uncover things and they've got a perfect reason to be in media and society. I get that. I really do. And I appreciate the hard work that some of them do, not that there are many left. But I also believe your original question to me was, is this good for the golf? I think it could be amazing, because a lot of the things that stop these people from saying things like that is the fact that they've got like a brand on their hat, on their shirt. So they're ambassadors to these things. So therefore they speak certainly. If you've just been given all these extra millions, why do you want sponsors? Why would you have to worry about sponsors? Go to some corporate day where you've got to talk to some middle management guy, laugh at his shit jokes while he gets onto the first tee with you. Fuck that. This thing has the ability to now make golfers completely free entities, completely free agents, and to not have any sponsors. You don't like those clubs? I don't care. I'm going to use these clubs. I think my driver's shit? Cool. I'm going to go buy that one. Become free agents in every sense, and then I want to see what this tour can do. And then, like, it'd be amazing. Guys will be having beers in the course. They'll be doing whatever they want to do, because they're not held.
It'll be more fun to watch, that's for sure.
That would be great. So the absolute sportist in me, this is why I care about this. Yes, people die in Saudi Arabia. Yes, people die in China every single day too, for no good reason. People die all over the world. People are oppressed all over the world. There are wars all over the world.
Didn't Gary Player build those courses for the Myanmar junta all those years ago, and he got into shit for that?
Gareth, they needed some recreation. Let's not get too hasty on the judgment there. The point is that we are all complete and utterly flawed. We shouldn't be harming children, which is always my motto in life. And then I think we can all just play and get on with life. I love the fact that they want to do these things, but I have no idea how it's going to sustain because, yeah.
Well, here Jamie says to understand the situation with Saudi golf, you must first understand how the PGA Tour works. It's not like the Premier League, NBA, or any other professional sport. And she goes on to say a little bit later on that it is basically about the money, and that's fine. What's wrong with that? EP47 says Ernie Els wine estates in Stellenbosch. I could sit there forever. Great place to read about South African golf history. Okay,
cool.
Kim Jong-un, who's a regular listener, says 100% Ben. 100% Ben. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. That's apparently quite racist. Little bit of competitive corruption, and the PGA throws their toys out of the cot, for fuck's sake. And then people go on to say, Kim Jong-un, glorious leader. Will glorious leader hold the best golf tour and best career? Although I know how glorious leader is at golf. Remember, glorious leader Kim Jong-un, best record ever in golf. Kim Jong-il, his father, played a round of golf, scored no less than 3 hole-in-ones, and then retired.
Well, actually, I think it was 7, but he's not one to brag. Guys, right. we all live in a weird world with so many different things and options. My question to wrap this up with, Gareth, who wouldn't you take money from? I mean, I'll give you my answer. The Chinese government and the ANC. Those are 2 people I wouldn't take money from.
Maybe
other than that, let's talk.
I don't know if I'd take money from pedophiles. I don't think I'd like that.
Well, obviously, but pedophiles aren't really a official entity. They're
not a powerful lobby.
and they don't have fucking money. They got no fucking money as well. They're just the dregs of society. So I don't think the pedos are going to get together anytime soon with their own rival golf tour. Can you imagine a pedo golf tour?
So if the ANC came to you and said, we've got this golf tournament that we're trying to raise some money for the ANC's election campaign,
fucked.
You wouldn't take their money?
No, I'd just do what I always do with the ANC, just wish herpes upon them and absolute fucking eternity of hell and carry on with my day.
EP47 says, Ben, look at your blinds. You don't know what money is.
That's a very good point.
Very rude of EP47. Show us your blinds, EP47. Why don't you show us what's under your skirt, motherfucker?
They're not that horrific. They're fucking. It's a tiny blind in the front. There's nothing outside there. There's no sun.
No, he's precisely the guy you need to attack back, Ben. Like I was saying just now. Oh, Kim Jong-un's just corrected us. 7, Gareth. Yes, 7 hole-in-one.
7.
There we go. Very good.
Amazing feat.
All right, EP47's laughing, but Yonder says, this is great for golf. I want the Saudis to come and buy South African sport. We could take care of rugby, soccer, cricket, athletics, swimming, netball, hockey, and other small sports. Well, yes, but then we can't let the same people. We cannot let the same people who are administrators now run it because they'll just fleece the Saudis. Then we'll be in trouble with them too.
Oh no, of course not. Like Yonder makes a very good point. I would rather have the people who maybe have a couple of beheadings here and there rather than the people who are responsible for life as a Mienie or Americana to run my sport. You want to get really technical on how horrible people are?
Yeah. Because what's horrible to one is not necessarily horrible to another. You know, I was talking to someone from the NPA yesterday at one of these things that I was at. And I said to this person who will go unnamed, how's your Shamila Batoy? Is she enjoying herself? Has she done anything in the last 5 years? And I started having a little temper tantrum. I was like, in any other country, this person would have resigned out of shame for having done fuck all in their office as public prosecutor, head of the National Directorate of Public Prosecutions. But she continues to languish there, doing absolutely bugger all. You remember there was the famous case of the director, I think of Mattel, I think he was the chair of the board of the CEO. They discovered that there was lead paint on some of their toys and that some kids had sucked the lead paint off. I mean, you've got to ask yourself what kind of kid is sucking the lead paint off a toy. Maybe it's a bit of Darwinism coming in there. But anyway, this guy was so humiliated and upset and embarrassed by the fact that his company had poisoned children all over the world that he committed harikiri. He actually he committed suicide. And I said, I'm not saying that this is what Shamila Batoy must do, but there are so many people in this country who, when they're caught with their hands in the till, whether they're ANC, EFF, on the rare occasion of Patricia DeLille or whoever else from one of the smaller parties, they'll never leave. they'll never leave office voluntarily. They have to be pulled out of there while they try to cling to furniture and paintings as their last kind of parting gift from the office to them. And I just can't help thinking that if more people just had the basic decency to know when their time is up, we wouldn't have such problems in South Africa. Anyway, it's a bit of a pipe dream, I suppose.
Hugely.
All right. So we bitched and moaned, but I am glad we spoke about sport this morning because we haven't done that for a very long time. And the business of sport, frankly, where the money goes, sport seems to thrive. This is why Formula One is so successful, is because there's so much money in it.
Yeah, exactly. And coming up, obviously, on Cliff Central is my new podcast. This episode's actually all about the money and sport and what's happening.
Fantastic.
There are so many different talking points with the money. I think is very interesting. And the way it keeps changing, the different role players that want to get into sport for certain reasons. And as people say, the Saudis want to use sport to sport wash their records. And this is a reality. You know, people do want to get in there. The F1, like if you really want to take on someone, take on firstly Lewis Hamilton and his sponsors, or take on F1 because they go to anybody. I mean, if Arms Dealeristan was a country and they put the cash up, everyone will be like, cool, let's have a look at your track.
Well, there are a couple of interesting comments. We've run out of time in this hour, but we've got some time in the next one. We will be joined by our guest, Stevel Marc, in a little while as well. But Ben, some SA sport positives from Clint from the Val. He says, the Proteas didn't embarrass us last night.
Yeah, the Proteas, I think, have turned a corner. They've realized that they run by absolute and utter pieces of crap. And they're taking it onto the field where it most matters.
Good. There's lots more that we'll talk about in a second, but we've got to take a break at 7 o'clock, cliffcentral.com. Friday morning, you've made it to the weekend. Hooray! Stick around, get more.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
But this pre-qualification that's on the sites, essentially,
on our platform.
Yes. This is a way of seeing your affordability before you go ahead and do any of those extra steps.
It gives you an indication of would you get finance for this car?
Yes.
Would you get finance for this particular car? And you can go onto Auto Trader's platform and go onto the finance part, and you can even navigate from any car that you're searching on, where you can go and get what we call pre-qualification, which means that we will check for you against your credit score, the car itself, and your affordability, and get you an indication. It's not approval.
Yeah.
It's just an indication. Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Do you suffer from collectivism?
I started collecting when I was about 8 years old.
Do you have an obsession with objects?
I sort of got into collecting TV cars.
Are you a fanatic? A devotee? Are you someone exhibiting enthusiasm or strong passion?
When lockdown hits, when everyone was kind of bored at home, they started Googling, like, what are these things worth these days?
Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating.
The frame's total value is probably about 12,000 rand.
Possibly a little weird.
I developed this infatuation with the Statue of Liberty.
Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and The Scoin Shop. Yes, indeed. Friday morning, cliffcentral.com. We've got Ben with us this morning. We also got George joining us a little bit later on. But in between, Stevel Marc will be our guest. We've had him on the show before. International model, actor, author, photographer. And he's someone who came to South Africa with a dream 21 years ago. He arrived here with one bag, one little carry-on bag. That was all he had. He had $50 in his pocket. And he actually put out a video just this week, last week perhaps, saying, you know, this is where he is now. He can't believe that his life has turned out this way. When he arrived here, he had no idea what he was in for. And it's been an adventure. Now, I have the world of respect for people who can make a decision like that and change their entire life, change the course of their life, change the place that they live in, and take a chance, take a risk, and make it work. It's amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. All right. So a lot of other things that people want to talk about, Ben. Did you hear on the show on Monday, Leanne brought up there's a new sport called mermaiding, where apparently, you know, you I suppose you learn to swim like a mermaid or something like that. Anyway, I said it was stupid, and I said it's not really a sport. And then I got, I don't know, 4 or 5 DMs on Instagram from people who said, we run a mermaiding school in the East Ront, and we want to teach you about mermaiding. And I've actually sent 1 or 2 of them on to the producers because I think it would be hilarious to find out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is apparently a thing. So where do you draw the line with sport? You just asked me, who would you not take money from? Where do you draw the line with sport? Is it still a sport if a fat person can do it?
Yeah. So basically, sport is something where people can be competitive. And in my mind, the second part of the definition is able to draw an audience. If no one cares, then it's not a sport. That's where I would say, just to compromise slightly. But ultimately, sport is anything that where something competitive can take place with.
So in other words, I mean, would you consider like women's golf a sport? Because that doesn't draw an audience.
Well, Minji Lee just won the US Open, and she won.
I'm sorry, who? What's her name?
Minji Lee. She's the.
You are kidding me, right?
She's the younger sister of Min Woo Lee, who plays on the PGA Tour. She just won $1.8 million for winning the US Women's Open.
Minji Lee.
So, Minji Lee, yeah.
Who is this person? Because the comments have been on fire with stories about her. Her name is Paige Spiranak. Who is she?
I love her. She's beautiful and she's funny. So she was like a talented amateur golfer. She turned pro, but like didn't really work out, and she gets a lot of hate for being very busty and golfy-ish. Mm-hmm. She's beautiful. She's mesmerizingly hot, and she loves golf.
Well, that's a rare combination.
I don't know what else I can really say about her.
Onto a lot of, I mean, this is not the typical woman golfer. I knew someone. No, she's dead now. She's dead now. So I can talk about her because she's no longer alive. And she was quite butch. She was quite big. She loved her golf. She could hit that ball very hard. She often would swear and curse and trample the ground beneath her when things didn't go her way on the golf course. But she wasn't anything like this Paige Spiranak. Spiranak really breaks the rule book when it comes to golf, doesn't she?
Well, she's kind of like the biggest golfing influencer now. She's got huge audiences and she does a lot of things like that. No, Gareth, if you're looking for incredibly good-looking women, you'll probably find beach volleyball might beat golf. That's me being diplomatic. No, right. But getting back to mermaiding, so what? Do you have to wear a fucking tail? How does it work?
I suppose I don't really care enough to find out, but people are telling me that they'll come to the studio and they'll talk to us about it. And I'm really not.
No, you mustn't go that far.
Enthusiastic. Yeah, I'm curious, but only, like a 5-minute conversation with someone at a party. Curious. I'm not like let's sit down and talk about this for an hour. Curious. You know what I mean?
No. If the reason why I'll entertain it because there's like chicks with dicks swimming in America, and that's a sport apparently. So if you want to be a mermaid, so be it. I just don't see. I just want to know what sort of equipment.
Yeah. Ben, I think you've just frozen up. Here's an interesting point. Yonder says the best golfers will still play with each other in tournaments. This LIV is just for 8 tournaments, and then golfers can still participate if those pricks don't disqualify them. So obviously, people still talking about that Saudi tournament. A lot of people asking here. Helene says playing darts is not a sport, neither is chess. Well, I don't know about darts, because even though you can be fat to play darts, those people, you have to be damn good to get that bullseye every time, or to get that, triple 20 or whatever it is you're going for. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, I mean, there's also clay pigeon shooting. You can go to the Olympics for that. Yes,
you can. And how's that different to golf? You're really reliant on the gun, but you have to be a very good marksman to get that right.
Yeah. But the thing about people love definites, and they love being so sure about things. Sport is a very broad thing. That's why I think it's so good. You should have sporting interest. Doesn't mean you have to now run. Doesn't mean you now have to dive into a pool. So having sporting interests there's various things you can do.
Do you think chess is a sport?
Sure.
So you're okay with that being at the Olympics?
Well, look, it's a lot more of a discipline and a certain skill set, but ultimately you're playing against somebody. You have the ability to be the best at it, so therefore it's a sport. It's competitive and draws an audience. Cockfighting is a sport.
Cockfighting, is it?
Yeah, because someone's going to be the best, and you got the ability to draw an audience.
All right. Okay.
Arm wrestling is a sport.
Arm wrestling, it is. Arm wrestling is still a big sport, especially in bars in Benoni and Boksburg. It's a huge sport. And that's between the women. The men do much more dangerous things in the parking lot. That usually involve crowbars.
Now, Steve, this is a brilliant question. Why there's no men's synchronized swimming? Because people just don't like looking at scrotums. It's as simple as that. Hairy-legged scrotums. Although, to be fair, I think synchronized swimmers of the male or of variety will be a lot more like the male rhythmic dancers. I don't think you'll find the burly, you're not going to get some 6'3" Hungarian man with hairy legs, because that would be a fucking sight, huh?
Imagine, and then they do those things where they open up the legs, you just see fucking sideburns down the thighs.
Can you imagine? like 15 azimuths basically plopping into the pool and then bobbing around and getting rhythmic with their Now it actually should be a sport. Now that you think about
hilarious. Yeah, now that we think about it, it should be a sport. It would be hilarious. All right, Americans take that speed cup stacking quite seriously. It's like a frat house party game. It's not a sport. Well, I played beer pong a couple of weeks ago with a bunch of friends, and that was hilarious. But that's not an Olympic sport. That's just a drinking game.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't have to be an Olympic sport to be a sport.
Sure, again, you would consider beer pong a sport, but not an Olympic sport.
But then again, Gareth, what is an Olympic sport? Basically, the Olympics, like any other federation, is looking for relevance. That's why they had ballroom fucking dancing in Australia, because they like to ballroom dance. That's why you've got skateboarding. Skateboarding is an Olympic sport because Asian kids are quite into it. So it was at Tokyo 2020. I think if you had to go into Borneo, maybe cannibalism could be an Olympic sport. Imagine the gold medal where you got someone's intestines hanging out your mouth still. Each to their own.
It's very interesting, the slap fighting, which Congo Chris mentions here. There's apparently a bar on the West Rand where people do this. They stand at a table. These two big guys will stand at a table, right? And the one guy will take a big, massive kind of, he'll wind his arm right back and try to smack the other guy in the face really hard. And then that guy will get a chance to do it to him. I suppose the winner is the one who knocks the other guy out. Would that be it? And Ben, we can't hear you. You're on mute, I think.
Sorry. There's an amazing video which I'm trying to find for you. There's this guy. He's a proper stereotypical tow truck driver kind of butt, and he's a slap fighter. And he's basically issuing challenges to anybody in Gauteng, East Rand, West Rand, but bring it. And he's a slap fighter. It's one of the greatest things I've seen. But yeah, that's a big thing. Obviously, Russia starts a lot of the stupid combat sport because they have very low self-esteem. They're always drunk, and they generally don't get along with their dads. So a lot of the combat sport comes out of there, and slap fighting is no different.
Is that Russian in origin? I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Or put it this way, it's going to come from a country that's A, cold, and B, drunk. So those two factors generally are Russia.
Yeah, I mean, Russia, it's not really a sport, but they will drink anything. So often Russians will. Is that one of your cats?
Yeah, what the fuck do you want?
Is that cat talking to you? It almost sounds like it's making words.
She's going to get sick. Not on the rug. Oh, not on the rug.
Oh,
fuck. Yeah, she's at this age now where she's just...
Oh, wow. Was she busy heaving? Is that what the noise was?
She's kind of heaving now. Right.
No, great. All right, well, you
watch
watch that.
Walk it off.
You watch that while we carry on with the show.
Okay,
Let me welcome...
Give me a second.
I'll be back. Yeah, you're going to deal with that. How revolting. While Ben is messing around with his cat, who's obviously throwing up, let me welcome to the show someone who we've had on the show many times before. I'm delighted to welcome him back this morning. He's an absolute gem, international model, actor, and photographer, Stevel Marc. Stevel, it's nice to see you, my friend. How are you? You're also on mute.
I'm sorry. There you go. All right, there we go. Yeah, we're live. I was laughing so hard. I was laughing so hard about cockfighting, so I'm still stuck on that.
Dude. Listen, while we're waiting for Ben to come back and we can carry on that conversation in a second, I just have to tell you how I found this video of you with your bag that you brought here from Jamaica 21 years ago.
Yeah, man.
I saw this video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Someone took me off to it. I just found it very moving that you look back on 21 years of this amazing dream that you've decided to live, that you've made yourself an incredible life. You've become a household name, certainly in parts of South Africa, you're very well known. There's still, I know there's a list of women who I've got that want me to introduce you to them. And I have to tell you, dude, it's just beautiful to hear you reflect for a moment on that very brave decision that you made as a very young man, a teenager. Came here with one bag, with $50 in your pocket, and look at what you've done. It deserves some applause. So well done.
Thank you. Coming from you, G, that means a lot. Good morning to you, and good morning to you, to your viewers and listeners. It's good. Thanks. It's good to be here. It's good to be here. Yeah, man. 21 years ago, I was still in high school when an agent pulled up, and he was just like, "Hey, man, I think you can really do this thing big time." So I was like, "Okay," and again, it was just stepping out and believing in that, and then humble beginnings. You're just like, "Hey, here's your shot. Take it. This is it. Either you don't, or." No, it's kind of stick around and work for the tourists coming through. It's just like it.
It's a great story, and I also didn't realize you've been in South Africa that long now. You've been in South Africa longer than you were in Jamaica.
Yeah, man, for sure. Wow, you know what? I didn't think of it like that. Yes,
big deal.
Yes, 1000% correct. Wow, I didn't think of it like that.
It's sort of like, and I can only relate to this because of the Jamaica part of it. My grandmother got married to my grandfather. She was probably 22, 23 when she married him, and she was from Clarendon in southern Jamaica.
Wow, wow, man,
And she came out.
You have Jamaican blood in you, The Jamaican blood inside your veins.
So she came out here to South Africa. She married into this Afrikaans family. She had no idea. She couldn't speak a word of Afrikaans. She didn't know one thing about South Africa. And she came here and made a life for herself, ended up having 4 children, ended up living on this farm. And I think she saw her family maybe 3 times again in her life.
Wow.
But she totally changed her life. There was no connection to Jamaica eventually at all, except that she always supported the West Indies and cricket, and she loved Caribbean music and calypso music.
Right.
And she also had, a bit of an accent. She kept her accent. You've kept your accent.
Well, I mean, it depends on who I'm talking to. So,
right.
It depends on who I'm talking to because
when you are busy talking to someone from the Caribbean, you turn it up.
Yeah, man, 100%. So, for example, I walk into the show, I say, "Good morning, Gareth. Go and big up your peoples. You don't know what they hear, Yeah, live and direct."
I love it, dude. That's so cool. All right. Do you think chess and beer pong and darts are an actual sport?
Chess for sure. Chess for sure. I mean, I don't play chess for nothing. I got a chess board here I got as a gift. It's literally sitting in the living room. I've never, ever even attempted, because I look at this thing and I'm just like, I don't even know where to begin. But I mean, beer pong's for fun. If we're gonna do this as a sport to say, okay, where do we end up at the end of the night? Sure. But chess, probably just chess.
I got to ask you both this. I had people here for dinner on Saturday night last week, and we were going to play some games, like board games and things, and everybody was like dead against it because it seems like such an investment. If you start a game like Risk or Monopoly or whatever, you're going to be there for a long time. So I put it all away and immediately like changed tack, and we just all sat around talking shit and having a pretty good conversation. But we didn't end up playing games. I mean, besides like the drunken games like beer pong, are there any dead cert entertainment things that you can do when you've got a bunch of people around that are always a winner?
Cards Against Humanity every single time. It's short, it's sharp, it's witty, it's...
Gareth, where did you find him? I want to know where you found him. I love him to bits. Like, I absolutely love this man.
It's the only thing to win, Gareth, because you're not invested with time, and you also get to see people's true colors too.
True. Yeah, I agree with that.
Especially in a world where everybody's offended by everything, Cards Against Humanity is still the very best game you could play.
I think it's a great game.
Yeah. All right, so Stevel, I want to talk about you wrote a book years ago, what, 2015 or whatever?
Yeah. 7 years ago since I last saw you, man. I mean, you haven't changed, still looking as hot as ever, you know?
Well, you said your book was called The Refined Player, Sex, Lives, and Dates.
Sex, Lives, and Dates.
That was the last time. I think that was the last time we had you on the show. Now,
absolutely,
I mean, it's easy for you to talk about, the refined player and how you could be better at dates and how you could be better at sex and how you can attract women more easily and all that kind of thing. But I mean, you were born good looking. It's not so easy for the rest of us. No, I mean you were, because you went into modeling.
Don't guilty laugh. He's right. I mean,
no. It's not a good laugh. It's not a good laugh. It's me laughing because I'm going. He said he's got a list of women who would want my details, and it's the same thing vice versa. People are always going, because I know literally right now, I have people on Facebook going, "Hey man, get Gareth's number for me." So it's one of those things.
Nice. I've heard this shit before. Listen, I know what I'm dealing with. I look in the mirror every day. You don't have to look at this face. You look at your face. Now, the point that I wanted to get to was, what is there still power in modeling for guys? Because I've always thought that if you're a girl and you're a model, you can earn a lot of money. You get to travel the world. You get to meet interesting people. Of course, you have to deal with pervy photographers, which is a major problem for these. No, really, these girls who are in modeling, they always have to deal with a pervy photographer. They're always these creepy, weird guys who do. Not all photographers, it has to be said. Some of them are really good, but there are a lot of them that are just creeps. Is it the same?
It's vice versa. I think it's vice versa. It's definitely vice versa. I mean, we have, as men, we have creepy photographers that come with us too. It is both ways. And yes, there is still power. There is also lots of opportunities to make big money. It's just a matter of which market you're in. Knowing your worth is also very important. I do think the market is probably watered down a little bit in South Africa because, everyone wants to be a model. And if we can't get Stevel, or Stevel doesn't want to do it, then we'll find somebody who just wants to get the promo, so they'll do it. So that has definitely watered down the market a little bit.
And what about Instagram? Has that made everybody, because everyone thinks they're an Instagram model. It's like everybody thinks, everybody thinks that they're a tactical World War II parabat because they've played some first-person shooter game for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing? Do you get annoyed with people who say to you on Instagram, well, I'm also a model, and they've done no work at all? They've had like one shitty photographer come around to their house and take pictures of them in their bathroom, and then they're trying to compete with you.
No, look, for me, I think if there's an opportunity for you to make some money, go ahead and make it, as long as you're being safe about it. But for me, the term model, it means something else. It means something else because I'm from an era where it was the work that you were doing, the places you've traveled that made you an international model, not just travel, but work in those markets. But you are right. There's so many Instagram models right now. And especially being a photographer, or having added photographer to my things. You see it all the time. You stand in front of the camera, it's a completely different thing. It's not what you're seeing there. It's just little things. It could be the mouth that's just up to one side here, or you got this funny thing you do with the eye. It's a whole process. It's not just I'm a model. There's a lot more to it.
Well, you and Ben have this in common. You've had to spend a lot of money. I don't know if Ben's still doing this, but like on photography equipment, because if you're going to film or you're going to take pictures of
I'm so glad you said photography equipment there. I was thinking, where the hell is this going?
No, and like you got to spend a lot of money on this stuff. And for example, in the same video I was talking about that Stevel put up the other day, you mentioned your photography bag, and you've got all this like photographic equipment, lenses, expensive battery packs, and like a spare this and a spare that, and the camera itself, and God knows how much all this shit costs. I mean, really, a lot of people, apparently it's the most popular hobby in the world, photography. But just because you're a photography fan, and maybe because you own a camera, doesn't mean you're a professional photographer.
No.
Same with modeling.
Definitely. And that's why for me, I've always taken whichever craft I've decided I'm going to jump on, I've always gone ahead and just kind of figured as much as I can about it. So even for photography, I went to photography school. I made sure I knew the ins and outs. I went into the old Red Lab and, wait for things to go down. I want to put this on film. I want to see all that stuff.
You developed photos the old way?
Oh, yeah, man. I went through the old process. You got to go through the whole thing. Well, again, that depends on how much, you want to learn and where you want to go with it. I was very, very intrigued. I wanted to know what, for example, a crop sensor did to a full body camera. What are the differences? What does this lens mean? Why do you use it? Why not just use the one lens the whole time? Why we got to have several lenses, So I wanted to know more. And so, yeah, it can become a very, very expensive hobby. I can tell you now, for example, because I'm a Canon fan. So the R5, for example, when that dropped, I think it was like 95,000 rands. There you go. That's just the body. That does not include lens.
Holy shit.
See? Yeah. I mean, it's mirrorless. So that's where you're going. Before that, their flagship is a 5D Mark IV. That right now, body alone, you're probably looking at about 45. So there you go. Dude. And lenses are often more expensive than the actual camera itself.
Is it getting cheaper? Is it getting cheaper or is it getting more expensive?
More expensive for sure. It's what these glasses do right now is crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's definitely getting more expensive on the top end. I think it's getting more affordable to get into it. But then once you're in it, and this is why it's probably smart on their behalf, they make these intro models quite attractive because they know that you're going to get bitten by this, and you're going to start upgrading all the time. But I think that's where photography and like what I do, like I make videos. It's a lot easier because I know I'm not going to make anything documentary level. I got a production company that does that. So my ceiling is kind of here. And then I work on editing and working different ways there. Photography, it becomes like a dark art because, as you say, there is no end to what you can learn. And then you also get caught up with the fact that you want to match skill with equipment. So a lot of the time, it's so difficult to just say, cool, I'm going to stop here, because then you get better and your skill demands better equipment. And that's how it just carries on.
I think for me, sorry, Gareth, I think for me as well there, Ben, because if you carry on, you said you do your own editing and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where it even becomes more fun now because, and that's the thing, G, when you're shooting now and you edit your own stuff, you already know what you're going to get once you get into the editing suite.
Right.
So you have an idea and you just, like you said, you just literally just go mad. You're like, no, I want to try it from down here. And the photography poses where you always see the photographer on the ground doing weird things. It's a real thing. it's a real thing.
That's what happens, huh? You have to do that shit. You have to get down on your hands and knees sometimes.
For sure.
I just want to throw this in here because a lot of people may not be aware of it. But you did this series on the History Channel, which I saw you in not so long ago, where you played Booker T. Washington in the series Theodore Roosevelt. I was watching because I'm a history nerd, so I don't know if anyone else in South Africa even saw Theodore Roosevelt, but obviously I would have watched it. And then I saw this dude playing Booker T. Washington, the famous historical figure. And I'm like, hang on a second. I know that guy. I realized it was you.
Yeah, man. The funny thing is, man, I've always preferred letting the work kind of speak for itself over the years. So I've never been the guy to come out and always market stuff. I mean, the only reason why you're hearing about stuff is like my American team is now going, no, you got to get a PR. You need a PR. You need a whole team behind you. And so I had to go out now and hire a PR. And this is why we're doing all these press runs. I'm like, oh gosh, I really got to do this stuff now. So yeah, Booker T. Washington, man, it's like, again, it's like doing history in South Africa and you're being told, hey, you're going to play Nelson Mandela. It was like, whoa, what do you mean? It was wild for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild for me. It was really wild for me. But also just kind of seeing, what he was to his people and what that meant for him and just believing in an ideal and going for that, not just going, give it to me because I'm worthy of it. You know, for him, it was always about, are you educated enough to be in that position? It was never about just give it to me. It was like, are you ready for that? So I like that principle.
You know, in some ways, this is also relevant to kind of your career, but it's also relevant to what's going on in politics at the moment. There's so many people sitting around and going, I expect, I deserve, I'm entitled to whatever.
For sure.
Someone who, you know, like Booker T. Washington, for example, who got to where he got all on his merits. It had nothing to do with, like, no one was looking to create a role for black men at that stage. No one was looking
1000%.
to carve out a space for black men. It's just like in sport, Ben. You know, no one's looking to have proportional representation of, you know, really fat people on athletics teams, because we want the best. We want to see the best, and this is what I think history has taught us time and time again. If you're really good at something, you'll do well. Full stop. The moment the politicians get involved in it, or you know, you have boards of people who are deciding who gets in and who gets out, that's where the problems arise.
Well, I think there's something beautiful in being the best in everything, because it takes whatever that is forward. So if you're looking for athletics, for instance, you want to find the fastest. Okay, so what is the fastest? Genetically, it's generally quite the same, but that faster becomes different over different generations. So yeah, you should always leave it be, so to speak.
Do you get excited when you meet these big celebrities, Stevel? I mean, you've worked with like Jodie Foster and you worked with Benedict Cumberbatch and some of these people who are really big stars. I mean, do you get starstruck, or do you just, you know, kind of treat it like a job?
Nah, for me, I treat it like a job, you know, because the moment you kind of get starstruck, or you act kind of weird, you know, people kind of get taken back. I'll give you a funny story. For example, I mean, bless his soul right now, William Hurt. I was shooting a film with him called The Challenger Disaster. And I was just so nervous next to this dude, you know, and I was told, don't speak to him unless he speaks to you. Don't just stay in your lane. Right. So I'm sitting there on the side of the ledge downtown, which is supposed to be NASA headquarters back in the States. And I'm sitting there and I just kind of hear this voice from the corner going, hey. And I'm not even looking to the side because I'm like, he's not talking to me. I was told, don't speak to this dude. So you know, in true William Hurt style, kind of just have his head top down. He just, hey man, I'm talking to you. So I looked over. I was like, oh, hi. And he's like, where are you from? So I was like, the U.S. We're in the U.S. New York. We're in New York. The Bronx. We're in the Bronx. I was like, wait, what? So he's like, yeah, I don't believe you. So I was like, okay, that's okay too, man. Yeah, I was like, that's okay too, man. So he's good. Then he goes on and goes, yeah, I mean, you know, I get it. You know, you want a piano player, I play the piano. I mean, got to do what you got to do for the role, right? So I was like, okay, cool, man.
And this is William Hurt?
Yeah, William Hurt, like Oscar winning William Hurt. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is going on right now? And the point of the story is that the director saw what was going on and he came over and he was like, hey, man, just don't worry about it. I booked you. You're here for this. Just do what you got to do.
Was he trying?
But I was so shaken up. Was
he trying to psych you out? Was he trying to mess with you?
I think that's what it was. I think that's what it was, because then we got into these cars, which were so expensive. You know, 19 whatever cars. These, you know, here's the owner out there just buffing it between scenes, and I get into the thing and I'm so nervous and I fucking hit it. I just smashed the car. Smashed on.
Shit.
So because I was so shaken up, and then. The following day, he's the sweetest fucking guy on the set. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I realized it. On the days when he's supposed to be a douchebag to my character, he was a douchebag. On the days when he was supposed to be super sweet to my character, he was the sweetest guy in the world. And I'm like, I can't do this shit with you. No, we're not doing this. So henceforth, I just literally stood in my trailer the whole time. I was like, when we're going on set, we're going on set. I don't want to do this. But yeah, I don't get starstruck on sets, man. I just go in there and I do the work. Because also you have actors who just want you to know that this is my scene. This is my scene. So you know what I mean? It's kind of like
a domination thing. They have to be in charge.
Yeah, for sure.
That reminds me of that. Did you ever watch Frost Nixon? Ben, did you ever watch Frost Nixon?
No.
It's this brilliant movie. I can't remember the guy who plays Frost. It's the same guy who played Tony Blair in this in that movie with the Queen. Anyway, he's like David Frost, the famous interviewer, and then they've got this guy who's playing Richard Nixon. And Nixon was supposedly, this is a true story, right? Nixon was just like the ultimate, like horrible shithead when it came to interviews. And I mean, we were talking about journalists earlier and how you should handle them. And Richard Nixon would come in with 5 minutes to go until recording, right? So this was, I think it was live. So the tension's even higher when something's live. Cameras are going to switch on. You're going to go live on TV. David Frost, supposedly the greatest interviewer of his generation. Richard Nixon, this is straight after Watergate. He's going to nail Richard Nixon, find out what really happened. So there was a lot of tension in the room. And all these people, obviously, because you guys know, I mean, you've both been on film sets and you've both been on in live radio studio situations. And Nixon walks in and he sits down. And usually there's like 2-3 minutes where you make small talk and you're like, hi, Mr. President, very nice to meet you. And you kind of shake his hand and sit down, and then you get ready. So you say, I hope you're having a good day. And, you try to put him in his ease so that you can have a good interview with him. But Nixon was such a shit. He sat down opposite this guy and he looks at him and he goes, Mr. Frost. David Frost goes, yes, sir, Mr. President. He goes, those are very effeminate shoes you're wearing. Are they Italian? You look like the sort of man who would wear Italian effeminate shoes. And it threw David Frost so badly that in that first interview, because I think it was a series of 3, you can actually, if you watch the interview, he starts off, he's nervous as hell, hands are shaking, because now all Richard Nixon has done is he's kind of, he's dominated him. He's like climbed on top of the situation and made him his bitch so that obviously Frost doesn't ask any tough questions. And what you just said about, hurt, it must have been the same thing.
No, it truly was, man. That's literally how it felt. It was, and I was much younger too. And again, it was kind of one of the first big actors you're working with. Because mind you, we had Sally Fields on that set. We had Bruce Greenwood. All these people were just super, super amazing, nice people. I just couldn't understand why I was like, it's just little old me, William. Little old me. But I stood there and I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to ride this thing until the wheels fall off. You're the Oscar-winning actor, and I'm on screen with you, buddy. So ain't nothing you can do right now. Let's just do it.
Gareth, it kind of comes back to like, what is a sport? It's like Nixon wanted to win. This William guy wanted to win. So
for sure.
It's like you can turn any situation into kind of a sport. Same with business negotiations. It could be relationship, like high grounding. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And you see people doing this in relationships. You watch like a couple where either the woman or the man is kind of in charge of the conversation. I mean, I've got a friend who married this woman, and I don't really know her very well. I knew him reasonably well. He wasn't like a close friend, but we kind of knew each other, and we'd see each other from time to time. And she has completely dominated him. And for example, when you're in a social situation with them, what happens is you'll be talking to him and she will answer. She'll burst. No, seriously, it's the weirdest thing to see because she's completely unaware of it and he's completely unaware of it. It's just the normal flow of communication with them. So I'll say to him like, hey man, how's work going? And she'll come in and she'll go, it's going fine. He's doing really well. I'll be like, I get it. I was talking to you, but all right. And it's so bizarre to see because he's completely emasculated in that moment, and he's not in charge. Like she is totally in charge. Not that for some people that might work. It's not my business to figure out whether or not their relationship is healthy. But certainly when you talk to this guy, expect the answer to come from her, not from him.
Wow. Sorry, Stevel, on that whole acting thing, Gareth and I often talk about actors have it quite difficult because they're not actually really part of this world. They're playing make-believe. It's all play. But it's like, it must be quite a difficult thing mentally to be consistent about stuff. So it's one thing to say, cool, I'm this character, I'm getting into this particular role. But is like consistency something that you have to physically work on, or is it just easier with some roles to really nail it, and that's why you choose certain things as a result?
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of both. So let's speak about the Mauritanian, for example, which is the one Gareth is talking about now with Benedict Cumberbatch and Jodie Foster. I mean, I went to the barbershop, man, because in my head I saw this guy. I was like, he's a CIA agent. I want him to be fresh and clean. So, I went to the barbershop. I had my lines tethered, man. I went, my waves were so clean on my hair. I was the cleanest dude you ever saw, like fresh out of a magazine, GQ. And I got into the makeup trailer, the hair and makeup trailer, and they look at me and they're like, wow, beautiful hair, man. That's really, really nice. And she literally took the clipper and she literally shaved out the front of my head right here. Whoa. Like it shook me up. I literally said to her, "Can I just get a moment? I just need to use the toilet real quick." But the funny thing is that it shook you up because you had the character in your head one way, right? And so I went into my trailer, and while I was there, I was like, okay, you're not married to your hair. You're not married to what the physical is doing right now. The character is what's important. So I got back to the hair and makeup trailer. I said, okay, cool. If we're going to go this far, I'm going to do everything that I am not, for example. So I want you to make this guy. So if you watch the film, you'll see I use my left arm a lot. I'm not a left arm, I'm a right armor, right? You'll see that I have glasses on. I don't wear glasses, okay? You'll see I smoke, and I have moments like deep, puffy moments. I don't smoke in real life.
That's amazing. So, you did all of that. I mean, by the way, this movie was only, what, 2021?
Oh, yes. It's on Amazon Prime right now, too. Jodie Foster won the best actor for that, and 5 BAFTA nominations. Yeah, incredible film. Incredible film. Based off a true story.
Do the things like the cigarette and the glasses and the fact that you're using your left rather than your right, does that consciously keep you in character?
1,000%. 1,000%. Because in that moment, you are no longer yourself. You've literally tapped out of yourself. You've tapped out. You've completely tapped out. You know, the cameras are rolling. You don't even when the director says cut, sometimes you're still in it. So you're still having moments. There are times where you say things that's not even in the script because, again, it's an out of body experience. You're really dedicated to that moment. You know. Is what they call a button. Is what they call a button at the end of it. It's kind of like, you know, is he good? It may be a look. It may be just a smirk. It might be just a look over the glasses. It's everything there. It's just moments. It's moments.
Wow, that must be so difficult because sometimes roles will grab you more than others. But do you ever get to those times where, like, you've been doing this, other actors have been doing this, but then some people just don't let go and they kind of Daniel Day-Lewis it for longer periods?
Oh no, for sure, man. Yeah, for sure. There are guys who, for example, again, I've been on set where they don't speak to you because they don't want to develop that kind of nice guy relationship because they're the antagonist towards your character. So they actually stay separate from you. They don't really talk much to you. And at the end of it all, you know, they'll come in and they'll give you a smile, or, you know, they'll do the old, hey man, this is me. Hi, pleasure to meet you kind of thing. So it all depends. You know, then you also have the guys who come on set and they're going, you know, well, I'm the big actor on this. I'm number 1 or I'm number 2 or number 3 on this job. So I don't really need to speak to you. But for me, I walk in there like a true Jamaican. I'm like, yo, what's up? How you doing? You know,
have you ever met one of these actors who is a complete douchebag in person as well? I mean, you may never work with them again. You could say, no? Are you sure?
No, I promise you. Or at least they haven't shown that to me. At least they haven't shown that to me. You know, at least I haven't seen that yet.
I've heard, like, for example, Alec Baldwin's a real turd. He's just a horrible guy to work with because he's up his own backside. You know, shooting directors dead and that kind of shit. So I don't know whether.
Way too soon.
Really? Okay, listen. Friday's probably the only day we get to have like guy conversations. Where it's just a whole lot of guys here. Have you seen Top Gun yet? The new Top Gun?
I have, man, and I saw it in IMAX too.
Oh wow, worth it? Because I haven't seen it yet.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And you know, I normally watch films 2 or 3 times. That's like my thing. It's my thing. At first I watch, and this is probably another thing for you to know. Or I don't know if every actor does this, but I do it. I watch the film as an actor. So I'm wondering why they made that choice. Would I have taken it from there? Where's the camera angle at that point? So I literally watched that film just going through technicals.
If you're looking at it that way, it must be horrible to watch.
But hence I'm saying I got to see it 2 or 3 times. So I go through that. So the first one for me is like my own personal class. It's like I'm going into class. Okay, wow, that was wow. Look at the way you did that.
You're the only guy keeping Kinnicore in business at the moment.
That's it.
No, really.
That's probably why they have me on a VIP black right now, because they're like, he's always here. He's always here. But yeah, the second time around, I can have a bit more fun. The second time around watching that, and I can have a bit more fun. But listen, man, just from because we know how Tom is about his own stunts and all of that. But also, I mean, I read something the other day where they literally had these guys in flight simulators, and then from them taking them into these actual planes, so that by the time they were rolling, they weren't freaked out by all the G-force that was coming at them.
Wow,
it's incredible.
Wow. But it's interesting what you say about watching it a few times, because like you see things in layers. because you understand that the dialogue has to be at a certain pitch and a certain way of landing it.
For sure.
Then you also see how suspense and tension is built up by camera angles and sound and all these kind of things. I also got to that point. And there's some movies you can just watch forever and ever because there's just it's the beauty and the craft which really makes these things pop. For a lot of people, for a lot of people like Gareth who just sit there with his popcorn shoving in his face, he'll see something and he'll be like, "Oh, that was cool," and he won't understand why it's cool at the time. But for you, you must look at
that was cool.
No, I pay attention to everything, man. One of my favorite things to do with films and series is, or anything that's on TV is to catch people where I always say to them, "What time was it?" And they go, "Huh?" Like people always ignore clocks. I always look at the clock. What time is the clock saying? Because everything means something. What time is the clock saying?
What a horrible way to watch a movie. It must be.
You gotta pay attention to everything, G.
It's the absolute best, Gareth. It makes you like you get 3 times the more the pleasure. You just try to find a guy on YouTube called Nerd Writer, and what he does is he breaks down a lot of these sort of amazing scenes in movies, and he breaks down exactly what we're talking about, like why the music was the way it was, why the color of the outfit was that way. In the actress at the time, like why there was a certain sort of scene and mist that came through to support this sort of dialogue, and it's 1,000%. Actually really beautiful when you break into it.
Oh, well, all right, I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
I mean, there's that one scene in the.
I'm the lowest common denominator viewer. Like Ben says, I'll just sit there and go, "Ooh, that was cool." I don't really care about analyzing.
But you want to have the stuff, man. But it's fun. It's fun to watch films with that technical know-how. Like for example, still talking about Top Gun. There's and this is in the previews. There's that one scene where the general is standing there and this massive craft just goes over him, and it's all this wind is like an explosion just went off. And right away I was like, okay, that tells me he's gonna be one of those top generals. He doesn't fuck around. And that's literally next scene, boom, face straight into camera, not a smile on face. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, listen. Before we wrap it up, because we've got George joining us in a moment or two, we'll talk a little bit about cars and about motoring and about all the other stuff that he's got on the agenda. What are you busy with at the moment, Stevel? Give us some. Give us an update. What's been happening?
I'm working on something right now. I'm itching. I cannot wait. Like, you ever had that one thing in your career where you cannot wait for people to just know about this? That is what I'm working on right now. It's a global show. Put it this way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put this in the right way so I don't give it away. It's a part of a comic. I'll put it this way. Part of a comic. Comic books.
Could we talk Marvel or DC here? Is this what we're maybe talking about?
We are not gonna talk about this, Gareth. All we're gonna say is that this comic book, they went on to sell 320 million copies. And here we are.
I think you're the
live action.
I think you're the next. You're the next answer.
This is me talking over you because I want to be distracted.
This sounds very good, dude. You don't say any more. Don't say any more. But this sounds excellent. I'm very excited.
I'm super excited. Apart from that, I've got two more films coming out. Either later this year or beginning of next year. One is a local joint called The Honeymoon, which we've got Mienie, and we've got Tumi Marake. So it's good fun. It's a chick flick. And then we have another one coming out that's again a Netflix original. That's called Office Invasion. So that should be good fun. I get to use a Jamaican accent, a flesh-eating alien with fire coming out of me. So it should be good fun.
Sounds amazing. All right. Well, Sanele says I'm watching the Top Gun movie immediately after this because you've got
wonderful. There you go.
All right, very, very good. All right, so Stevel, very nice to see you, dude, and I hope we will see you on the big screen soon again, doing all of these things you mentioned and the ones that you're not allowed to mention yet.
Right, for sure. No, thank you.
Who knows? I mean,
maybe I'll test out the photography side of things. I'm sure you do some new PR shots. Get you in the studio. Sure. Let's take some pictures, man.
If you want to take pictures of Quasimodo coming out of his bell tower, yeah, you go for it. Here's an artistic take on Quasimodo walking out of Notre Dame Cathedral. Yeah, great. All right, thanks.
Wow. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great weekend.
Cheers, my bro.
All best.
Okay.
There he is, Stevel Marc. What a guy. You can follow him on social media at Stevel Marc, STEVELMARC, and lots of cool stories coming from him. It's good to check in with George Mienie. That means it's Friday. It means the weekend has begun. Good morning, Borge. How are you?
Good morning, Gareth. How's it been?
Hey, George.
I'm good. Yeah, it's.
What are you up to? What are you driving, flying, or piloting this weekend?
Well, tomorrow there's a big bushcat gathering.
What?
At a bushcat, which is a type of airplane, the one that I fly.
Okay.
It's a South African built two-seater, and they're all flying to Middelburg Airfield, and everybody that owns a bushcat is flying in there. So they organize these things from time to time. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, go fly there, land, have a bit of breakfast. It's almost like a motorcycle breakfast run type vibe.
Very nice, George.
Yeah, very, very nice.
I just want to put a picture up on the screen of this bushcat so people can see what we're talking about, because we did have your plane on the show not so long ago. You were in the hangar and you had it actually sitting behind you while you were talking to us. But I thought maybe people who didn't see that might want to know what it looks like. This one is painted in zebra stripes, black and white. There it is. So that's the little plane you're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Although mine's not a tail dragger, it's got a nose wheel, so it's a slight difference, but same airplane. That one's quite popular, actually. That one, there's one like it in South Africa as well. It's often used for anti-poaching because they're very nimble and almost like a zippy little car in the sky.
It's very cool. Very cool.
George,
you see,
George, do you all have special bushcat leather jackets that you then sort of compare?
No, I'll wear Auto Trader one.
I'm just because it sounds like those Harley clubs that you see these guys going on a breakfast run, except you guys are like you're one tier up from them because you're actually flying to your various places. That's
you could have like your special bushcat code name on the back of your leather jacket. George, I reckon you should sell bushcat merch. Get like a side gig going there.
Yeah, just sell bushcat merch. But motorcycle clubs do that. I used to be a cyclist, and cyclists were very similar as well. It was all about the kit.
No need to embarrass yourself by bringing up cycling, George. There's a lot of horrible things in the world. Let's just try to keep Fridays positive, please. If you don't mind.
Well, that leads me into the first story, Gareth. I sent you a link to a short video there. So this man, this car dealership in America, in Belgium. This car dealership in Belgium couldn't understand why they had saliva on the cars that are parked on the sidewalk every day. They find the saliva running down the side of the car, and they couldn't figure it out. So they went and they reviewed the CCTV footage, and that's the video I sent you. And it turns out this disgruntled cyclist every day rode past the cars and spat on them.
Good Lord, what's his problem? Because when you said saliva, I thought it maybe what was in Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma with, and when people put saliva on the paper. You remember that? That was 2 years ago, but it was a huge, huge hit. So I thought maybe it was her. But what was the reason the cyclist is spitting on cars?
They don't know, but the owner of the dealership ran out. Dealership's name is Auto James. Ran out with a bucket of freezing water in winter and toppled the bucket over the cyclist. They timed it because they knew every day this guy's going to come past. Yeah,
I love it. Good. That's the way to treat cyclists.
Exactly, and so that's what the dealership owner did.
That's hilarious. Look at that. There it is. And the cyclist is wearing like an anorak. And I don't know if you could even call them a cyclist. If you dress like that, you're really just a bicycler.
A bicycler. You could
call them bicycler. All right, very good. That's the way to deal with cyclists. We like that.
The ones that spit on your cars, I suppose. But there's another more interesting story, I suppose, and that is a man in Colorado has been collecting. I don't know if you ever collected Hot Wheels, Gareth.
Yes. Funny thing, yesterday, I actually drove past a shop where they sell like hobby stuff, and they had in the display window, they had a whole range of Hot Wheels. It's a big thing.
It's a very big thing, and this guy has collected over 30,000 Hot Wheels, some very, very rare Hot Wheels.
Phenomenal
display that he has.
We got to get this guy on Collectomania. On Mondays we do this thing called Collectomania where we talk to people about their collections. And I'm sure in South Africa there's someone who's collected all the Hot Wheels. If you know who that person is, or if you are that person, then send us an email, contact@cliffcentral.com. We want to talk to you.
Well, this guy's name is Kevin Feely from Firestone, Colorado.
Isn't he Britney Spears' ex? Isn't that his name?
Close.
Oh, Kevin Free. I don't know.
Kevin Federline's the guy.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Quite
I'll send you the link if you want to get in touch with him.
Right. Cool.
But 30,000 Hot Wheels this guy's collected, and then this guy from again, nobody really knows, but everybody thinks it's Florida. Decided that in a flood situation, to drive his Corvette, he's got a C8 Corvette, and wade through the water. Now, if you have a look at the image of him wading through the water, let me just get it up here. If you look at the image of him wading through the water, you will see that he. There it is.
All right, let me put that up on the screen. Go ahead.
You will see that he's almost under the water, and the car kept going, but nobody knows who this guy is, and this image appeared. I mean, the car can't run for too long that deep in the water. It's just impossible.
What is? I mean, you see a lot of these Land Cruisers and Land Rovers that have like an elephant's trunk next to the driver's side. And that's supposed to help the car through swampy water to keep the engine aerated, I suppose, and to keep water out of the important parts. So it would almost isolate those parts of the engine that cannot get wet from the rest of it. What is the general expectation for something like that to be able to last in water that deep, like we've just seen in that picture?
Well, so what happens when you enter the you don't necessarily need the snorkel, as they put it, because the air intake is the thing that sucks the water in, because it's sucking air in. So you don't need the snorkel, provided you are wading. You're pushing the water away from the car, and then it creates this little vortex and vacuum inside the engine bay. But at some point, if the water gets deep enough, it will get into the engine bay, and most air intakes are at the top of the engine, at the top of the bonnet. So you're not, the water has to really rise into the bonnet of the car in order for the air intake to get in. And then there's electronics and all that stuff that could be damaged as well.
And
so
course,
I reckon it's a matter of time.
A lot of these cars are not built to be submarines, so the water is going to leak in through the dashboard or whatever else it is, even if it's a really well-made car, because they're not meant to be underwater.
No, they're not, exactly. Right. So I would imagine, I mean, this was a random picture that nobody knows exactly where it is. I think it's Florida. And I would imagine that Corvette didn't wade for too long through that water.
No, I like that. That's interesting, though, that if you lose momentum or you stop, then obviously the air intake is completely screwed. But if you keep moving, usually, if you're moving at the right speed and you're creating that pressure outwards, then you're usually okay. I didn't realize any of that. Cool.
So you just got to keep moving through the water, but don't go there in the first place. Have you ever waded, Ben, with a 4x4?
No, I don't really want to either. People always go, you got to do these things. It's like, yeah, I guess, but then it just seems like a lot of work. But I just think that that's one of the most Florida pictures ever, because that guy was like, screw it, I'm going to do it. He's probably got a gator in his back seat as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably in the front seat.
Jacket from Gator Skin.
He's definitely got a leather jacket with something on the back of it.
All right.
And then lastly, Gareth, there is a research study that's going to start in the beginning of next year. A crowd called Go Metro is going to bring in a electric Toyota Quantum, the taxi.
Yes.
Bring an electric Toyota Quantum to Cape Town, and they're going to set up a charge station, and they're going to see whether taxi can be operated with an electric vehicle.
What's the bet that the taxi association will attack the poor guy who's got the electric taxi and beat him up because he doesn't have to fill up with petrol? So I don't think this is a great idea. Unless everybody gets an electric taxi, no one should get an electric taxi. That's how the taxi associations think.
It's a good point. But some of the studies done so far, the taxi drivers themselves are very much for it, because
Really?
I believe, this is kind of hearsay, but I believe that the way the taxi drivers get remunerated is they have to pay a fixed amount to the taxi owner, and all other costs are off whatever they collect.
Well, as long as they disguise it to look like a normal taxi, make it look like it takes petrol, then you should be all right. But the moment it looks different, it's going to get the same shit that Uber gets or that any of the other taxi services get. The taxi drivers just do not tolerate competition. They don't think of it as a they don't want an equal playing field. They want special protection. And if they can't get it, then they'll just beat up those taxi drivers who don't do the same thing they do.
Well, I suppose that doesn't only go for minibus taxis. It's also the other taxi part of the industry, which look at what happened with Uber, like you say. Around the world, there seems to be this, taxi anti-disruption thing.
The other problem, George, is, I hate to say it, but Eskom. If you've got an electric taxi and you're relying on Eskom, you could be in a lot of trouble.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've got a commute to do or a route to do, and there's a 2-hour, I agree with you. I mean, I've said up to now that load shedding does not impact owning and driving an electric car. And it doesn't, because I live with one every day, because you can charge it overnight. But with a taxi driver, you might have to charge it during the day, which it disrupts your route.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. I mean, the more we can have options, the better. Of course, you and I and Ben, we're not talking like taxi drivers or taxi owners. So what do we know? All right, George, thank you very much. Have an excellent weekend. Ben, enjoy your weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
We will see you on Monday. Yep, we'll see you on Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning.